Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Lucky Bancho, y'all. Lucky Bancho. There's lots to say about this. So let me get my links pulled up for us, because oh my god. What is Lucky Bancho? Lucky Bancho is the Final Fantasy XIV unofficial census that is conducted by players and has been for, honestly, the entire time that I've been playing. I think they have data going back all the way to the very beginning, whenever you first could get data for the game. So this is it. I'll pull this up. This is the census. And, yeah. I spent a lot of time looking over this yesterday and, putting it in a translator and sorting through all of the information so that I can explain it to you and let you understand what's happening right now. Basically, the census is out, and, it's time again to talk about the player trends, the numbers, and the question of, has Dawn Trail been performing good? Is the game holding on to players the way that it used to do that? Well, no. No, it's not. Straight up. No. Some people will try to say that the game is fine. Other people have been trying to tell you that it has been hemorrhaging players faster than it could replace them. But instead of just speculating, now we actually have the data to correlate our findings here and our sentiment. And before I even get into this, let me just say that the goal here in looking at data is not to say game dying. Dead game, okay? That's stupid. We don't get anywhere by just saying that. This is to talk about where it's struggling, why that could be occurring, why the game cannot retain players recently, and like, how are they building this for the long-term engagement that keeps people coming back? Is it made for that even? And if not, what does that mean for the future of the game? So first let's talk about the general census. So there's, at the beginning of this, they share the general census. I don't know if I can, okay, I'll just pull up a Google translated page like this for you. This is the general census. How do they count the general census? This counts active players and the number of returning characters. Now for this part, the criteria is really broad. To be considered an active and then possibly a returning player, all you have to do is to show some kind of changes in your character data since the last census. That means that you only need to meet one of the following criteria. HP level or experience has changed. Any of that. Your number of minions or mounts in your possession has changed. Or being a new character that has a level 70 job or higher, or has a job that's not available in the free trial, or is in a free company, and has a public lodestone profile, and at least one mount, and is not a character that has likely used a jump potion recently. So it's not hard to be counted in the active player count at all. Honestly, all you have to do is log in and change jobs one time and log out, and you'd be counted as an active player. Okay, so the fact that it's so broad and it's so easy to be counted, especially considering the fact that we had a free login campaign during this period, is one thing that's going to make these numbers so staggering. A returning character is obviously somebody who was not considered active in a previous census period, but meets one of these criteria that I just mentioned now in this period. So what does it say? Basically, the report puts the total number of active characters at 990,000. This is a decrease of 10,000 from the previous survey's 1 million. It also talks about the number of new characters, which has increased from 47,000 in the previous survey to 59,000 in the current one. And it details the number of returning characters. So people that were, well, I already told you that, inactive before, but active now. This increased from 120,000 last time to 170,000 this time. And it also provides a number of continuing active characters. So this is people who were active in the previous survey and remain active, and this decreased from 830,000 to 760,000. It says that at the start of Dawn Trail, there was 830,000 characters at that stage, and 660,000 reached the Dawn Trail level cap. 590,000 cleared the Dawn Trail main scenario. And they also looked into the number of people who got the pre-order bonus minion, which went from 790,000 to 760,000. That reflects the number of people who pre-ordered that are now considered inactive. And they looked at Dawn Trail Collector's Edition minion holders, and that's relatively stable, actually. So Collector's Edition holders are they're strong. Your holder's strong. But that's obviously a comparatively smaller group. And so if you might be asking yourself, well, if the general census indicates that there's more new characters and there's more returning characters, then why is this still bad? Why is this still a bad trend? That is because the number of continuing active characters has now plummeted to a degree that outpaces both of those factors. According to the report, while the number of active characters has not decreased significantly, the fact that it has fallen below the 1 million mark is quite an impact. This is the first time it has fallen below 1 million since the survey on April 11th, 2021, which was during Shadowbringers. Looking at the details, the number of new and returning characters has increased, but the number of continuing characters has fallen. As it was a time when there was not much content, it seems that many players left. That is a quote directly from the report. Players who are dedicated enough to clear the ultimate content continue to play, but the number of other general players decreases in proportion to the decrease in the overall player population. So the decrease in the denominator may have contributed to the increase in the completion rate for Eden Ultimate. In 7.1, there was a lot of content that you were satisfied with once you cleared it, and there was little demand for equipment updates, so there were many calm periods. Calm period is a pretty nice way of putting it, I think. The general active player count that I've been discussing so far, this is really meant to give us an overall snapshot of the potentially active players based on a very broad criteria. But you might have also seen, maybe on Reddit and being spread around, this graph. This is the achievement data graph. So they use a completely different metric to build the graph right here that you're seeing now. Let me put this where you can actually make it smaller so you can see that. So because okay, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. So this is a totally different metric than the general player count that we've already been over, because achievements. Hold on. Oh my gosh. I wish I got some water, because I'm like, I feel like I got an issue in my throat. 1 second, please. Okay. So anyway, this is the achievement trends. This is the activity trends of characters that have public achievements. The reason that they use a separate metric to build this other data and this other graph is because it's a better indication of the actual gameplay and progression. That, like, it shows what players are actually doing in the game, not just logging in, changing your job and logging out. This directly reflects how much players are interacting with the game's content. And so for this graph, they count 3 different kinds of players. The blue line is new players. This means it's people whose first achievement was registered during the current census period. The red line represents the continuation players, retained players. That means it's any player who earned an achievement in a previous period. And that doesn't necessarily mean the immediately preceding period. A previous period, and also earned an achievement in the current period. So basically continuing to play. Green line represents the inactive players. Final, it's called terminated players. These is people who were active before but did not earn any achievements in the current period. So they have no new achievements that have been recorded. It represents fall off, essentially. I did actually double check that this was all correct with my friend Arthars, who obviously speaks Japanese. And he said, yes, that's right. The blue is brand new active characters. Red, current still active characters. Green is people who no longer give a shit and is not updated on Lodestone. That's exactly what he said. So the last bar, do not pay attention to it. The last bar is incomplete data, so just disregard that last totally green bar. We don't have that data yet. I honestly don't know why they still include it, but they always do that. But yeah, the green represents fall off, and it's pretty insane. This isn't like a slow, steady decline. What we're seeing now is kind of a nosedive. I was honestly shocked to see this graph. Things have been looking kind of bad for a while as of Endwalker's patches, and of course we had a spike with the Dawn Trail expansion launch, but things are looking pretty dire right now, to be completely honest with you. And I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. This is the graph. Like, I was wondering too, like, how does this count returning players, if you're curious about that. Basically, if you had achievements in some prior period before you became a final, counted as final, and then later you returned and earned a new achievement, then you would just be counted under continuing. Now, according to the report, the writer said that since the release of Golden Legacy, that's Dawn Trail, what stands out is the large number of characters whose achievement records are final, meaning that they have left. Q1 2025 is the latest data for all characters, so this determination is final. There is one thing that I want to get ahead of in the ways that people will try to dismiss this data. Some people are definitely going to try to argue that the Lucky Bancho data is flawed because it... Excuse me, it seems like I have a bit of a cough this morning. Because it only tracks the players who earn achievements. And of course, some people might be logging in. They might be AFK in Limsa doing nothing to earn an achievement, and that is true. But that is the same tracking methodology that they have been using for Endwalker and for Shadowbringers and for every expansion that's ever come before it. So that makes this still a valid comparison. People have always been AFKing in Limsa, and it's always been so we can still compare it. This data, the achievement data especially, is an incredibly useful and a stable metric compared to how they do the general census, which is really broad, and both metrics are showing us this decline. So I think that rules out the idea that drop-off is just some weird quirk with how they track achievements. It is obvious that data shows Dawn Trail is seeing a steeper decline than Endwalker, and we are seeing a big drop in player engagement. You can also observe this same pattern on Steam charts, which I will pull up for you right now. Now, obviously you want to take Steam charts with a grain of salt because it is only one platform. But, that said, when you take it alongside the other correlating data that we have from LUCKYBANCHO, the trend is just impossible to ignore. The player count on Steam has dropped back to where it was November 2020, which was right before the WoW Exodus. We've now fallen to pre-Endwalker levels. So, you could say, in general, Shadowbringers had lower peaks, but more steady engagement throughout, with, you know, Dawntrail having that big spike at launch, and the fall-off has just been insane. The fall-off has shocked me. I expected it to be bad, but honestly didn't expect it to be this bad. So anyway, from the LUCKYBANCHO report, they also said that patch 7.15, and this is a quote directly from the report, patch 7.15 was released in 2024 and included a lot of content that could be completed once. And after 2025, there was little content that would naturally encourage achievement progression. So they too are actually forced to point out the pattern of one and done content that I've been criticizing since Endwalker patches. If there was nothing wrong, if there was nothing worth tracking after 7.15, then it means players had no reason to stick around long term. It presents the problem of, actually, there's a lack of ongoing trackable achievements. So they literally can't even track the players if there ain't trackable stuff for the players to do. God. It's grim. This is grim. So, you know, you might want to ask yourself, does this make sense with a subscription model that the game has? Is that justified? Because I thought that the trade offer is, I give you $15, you give me ongoing content and updates, not just like one-time experiences that are stretched literally months apart. How are we trying to incentivize people to stay subbed between the patches, between the major content patches? Like, honestly, at first, I thought Yoshi P was being humble when he was telling people to take breaks. But, honestly, now I've started to wonder if this is actually the game's business model. Like, maybe they just want to lower server costs. Like, I don't know. But literally here, actually, this was funny. This was in the LUCKYBANCHO report. Here in the report, the guy says what games he was playing during the content drought of 7.1. Yeah, okay. He said, since the Battle Against the Cloud of Darkness was released after the previous data collection period, and aside from the extra story for the role quests, there wasn't much content, making this a relatively quiet period. Many players are probably spending time playing big titles like Capcom's Monster Hunter Wilds. As for Bancho, meaning as for me, I was playing like a Dragon 8 Gaiden, being a pirate in Hawaii. This is where we're at. This is where we're at. Even the Census guy was bored to tears. This is actually crazy. Like, instead of talking about what's keeping us engaged and hooked into the game after 7.1, he's just like, yeah, I was playing a pirate game. Yeah. That man literally jumped ship. Literally. I don't know. Is there really so little that was worth talking about in 7.1? I felt like that was a massive red flag when even the guy who's tracking player numbers is like telling us what he was off playing instead. Like, doesn't that tell you everything that you need to know about the state of the game right now? I felt like it's not a wild take that a subscription MMO should be built around the long-term engagement, but instead they keep designing it and selling it even as a game that you're meant to leave and come back to. The Lucky Bancho writer later on does say that in addition to the main story and new raids, patch 7.2 will see the release of major content at intervals. With Cosmo Explorer in patch 7.21 on April 22nd, and Crescent Isle in patch 7.25 on May 27th. There will also be equipment updates with new tokens, and there's a lot of content that takes time to progress, so we can expect that the player population in the game to increase. That does sound like they're trying to reassure players, and I'm sure that 7.2 will probably see like a small bump because it is going to be new content. But man, Dawn Trail, I just don't believe that this is a problem that this patch is going to solve, especially for me personally as a non-high-end raider. Cosmo Explorer and the Crescent Isle are staggered across 2 patches, meaning that 7.2 itself is gonna feel like pretty dry. It's not gonna feel like a huge content drop. It's still gonna be a waiting game for quite some time. There's a lot of stuff that takes time to progress, he said. And that's true. Savage, I mean, could. It depends on your group. Crescent Isle, I mean, maybe, but we can talk about Crescent Isle in the summer when it comes out. It feels weird to even include that in the discussion right now. But maybe, yeah, like we could talk about that this summer, dude. They're saying like, oh, but this gear reset, there's gonna be new tokens. And that is true, but like I don't know if the tome and token treadmill is going to be enough to dig us out of this at this point in the expansion cycle and like get people all really jazzed up to log in. Like, like people aren't coming back from the live letter like, oh yeah, gear progression is the same as it's always been. And yes, like patches will bring people back, but what matters is whether or not they stay. And Endwalker had big peaks for the patches, but retention was quite bad then too. So, I mean, I pointed out the problem then. People were bored between patches, but ultimately nothing is changing, and the data reflects that. Just like I said in my Endwalker video at the time, when I was still really struggling with the state of affairs, and I had a hard time accepting that they let this happen. Other games are fighting for people's sub money, though. Like, other games are giving a lot of incentives to return and to keep playing those other games. So I feel like it's a really risky strategy, even an arrogant strategy, to just straight up tell people to go away and come back later. Right now, the game is bleeding players faster than the new ones can replace them. And there's no real strategy to stop this in the long term. Some people say, well, it's 7.2. 7.2 is going to bring everybody back. Crescent Isle is going to be the new promised land. But, I mean, God, I hope so. We'll see in June. I just feel like it's going to be an uphill battle because Dawn Trail's momentum is long gone. And we're just not seeing enough new players to replace the people that are leaving. We're seeing an overall net loss, and the hype isn't there. This time players are leaving and they're not coming back, and I just don't see how they're going to reverse this trend when it has been going on and we've been losing players since Endwalker. So I don't know. Game always had slow periods, that is true. Like, slow periods are nothing new. But they definitely have been hitting harder every time. as the content just keeps getting more thin and more stretched out. I think one thing that we've learned from Dawn Trail is how much it sucks to not at least have the story momentum keeping you invested enough to just wait it out. Just wait, right? Like, and I don't think there's a whole lot that they can do in the short term. Only way to fix it, I think... God, they'd have to completely rethink how they design patches. I honestly think that that's gonna happen. The Dawn Trail is already... Dawn Trail might... It's looking to be, so far, to me, the most predictable, most formulaic expansion cycle I have ever seen. Without any of the good story to carry it, either. Like, if 7.2 story turns out to be a banger, I will personally get on my knees and apologize. I will eat my sock. I would love to be proven wrong. But it sucks. Like, I do still care about 14, and that's why seeing this decline is so frustrating. If I didn't care, I definitely wouldn't look at this data at all. I would just ignore it and move on. But, I don't know why I still feel like it is important to bring these things up. Like, it is important to talk about it. At least be aware of what's happening. Shit. Because, somebody needs to be saying it. Somebody needs to say it. One of the most damning things to me was that FX16 has a chance to make a modern game. And it was literally just DMC combat slapped on top of XIV busy work quests. Yeah, FF16 definitely suffered from a lot of the same core problems that FF14 has. And, I don't know. Sucks. But it's hard to argue with the data. The game is losing players. It is... What a surprise that a game that isn't built for long-term engagement has players not engaged long-term. Wow, what a concept. Holy shit. Like... Wow, I can't quite put this together. Like, what's going on, guys? The problem is that this, like, the leave and come back later approach is very quickly turning into leave and stay gone. Just, hope you're having fun over there. I hope they can adapt. Oh, do you? I don't know what would help. I don't know what would help. When I think about, like, lately I've been having so much fun in World of Warcraft, and I feel like WoW is giving me a lot for my sub fee. I feel like I get a lot of bang for my buck with my sub fee, and I feel like I have so many different things to do. I look forward to logging in every time I log in. There's always something. There's, like, we have trading posts. We got weekly rep quests that, like, I'm getting gear from that I need. We have Great Vault, which, you know, like it or not, it is exciting to open the vault every week. We got seasonal events all the time. We got time walking, which is fun. Anytime there's a new seasonal event, it's got some new shit in it. And I can get the old event stuff for free. Instead of having to, oh, new event time. Guess what? You can now buy the old event stuff in the cash shop. They don't do that to you. I have my weekly raid lockout for farming old raids for the mounts, for the transmog. There's hero specs I've been trying. There's delves. There's the new achievements, the new mythic season stuff to learn. Like, tons of different ways to get gear. There's so much shit in every patch. 11.1.5 is soon, and I'm not even ready for it. I haven't caught up. They're giving me more stuff before I'm even done with what I got. It's like eating at grandma's house, and I'm in the middle of eating, like, the first course, and she's bringing me the next course already. She's just trying to, like, that's how it feels in comparison. Like, I'm excited to do horrific visions. We got the new Holofall event thing coming up that's new. There's like this stuff I've never seen before all the time. It's a shitload of content without getting rid of the old content. Imagine if they were like, hey, so we're going to add horrific visions, but because of that, we're not going to update Mythic Plus for this patch. So we're adding a couple new delves, guys. So that means that you're not going to get a Mythic Plus update for like 8 months. This is crazy. This is us crazy. And I think FF players that go over the experience getting fed are, they're gonna know what that's like now. I don't know, dude. You gotta give players reasons to play your game. You can't just expect people to unsub for months at a time. I just don't see how this is a sustainable business model at all. But what the hell do I know? Maybe Yoshi P knows something I don't. I'm not a dev. So maybe it's working. That doesn't look like it, but maybe it is. I mean, I don't know what else there even is to say about the state of affairs. It's pretty dire, but guess I don't know.